Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Hat Historian. In this video, I will be talking about a famous attribute of great chefs, and by association, a symbol of haute cuisine, the chef's hat. The traditional chef's hat, sometimes called a chef's toque, or a toque blanche, is a tall cylindrical hat often rigid and made of starched cotton, with pleats at its top. It can also be soft and floppy, and can today be found in various colors. Its original role was similar to all the other hats that one can see cooks wearing throughout the centuries, to prevent hair from falling into the food, and absorb sweat caused by hot ovens and cooking tops. Its tall shape is also supposed to encourage air circulation and help keep the wearer's head cool. So let us look into its origins. The origins of the chef's hat are the subject of many legends lost in the mists of history. One of the stories says that in the 7th century BC in Assyria, a king sometimes identified as Ashurbanipal was worried, as were many sovereigns throughout history, that his royal cooks might try to poison him if they got unhappy. To simultaneously flatter them and make them identifiable, he made them wear tall hats similar to his own crown, to mark them out amongst the other palace cooks, and to mark their allegiance to the crown. This is one tale, but another says that cooks, who were often educated men in order to read recipes and research new techniques, were persecuted in a time of intellectual repression in the Byzantine Empire. They sought refuge in Greek monasteries, which were protected by their sacred status, and adopted the tall hats worn by the monks inside, which they then later kept as a sign of gratitude to the protectors. Yet another says that King Henry VIII, known for his temper, beheaded, or simply threatened, versions vary, his cook after finding a hair in his food, and requested all others wear caps to prevent the incident from repeating itself. All these stories are simply legends, impossible to truly verify, but they do add a little flavor, if you'll pardon the expression, to the history of the hat. Cooks in fact did not have any specific outfit for a long time, but Henry VIII's story shows, with perhaps a little dramatic license, the important reason they might wear a hat even in the stifling environment of a kitchen. Even in an era when cleanliness standards were decidedly more relaxed, those who prepared food were still expected to maintain a minimum of hygiene, and a lot wore a cap that varied depending on where they lived, but often resembled something of a nightcap. Generally made of thick cotton to absorb sweat, it could sometimes be made in different colors depending on the role of the cook. The man who created what would become the chef's hat that we now know, alongside with many other modern cooking traditions, is famous French chef Marie-Antoine Carême, who incidentally is also the first cook to have the title of chef, for chef de cuisine or chief of the kitchen. Nicknamed the King of Chefs and Chef of Kings, a title later inherited by some of his successors, he was first the cook for French statesman Talleyrand, which allowed him to be known in all the courts of Europe. He was for a time in the employ of Tsar Alexander I and then King George of Britain, but also cooked for Francis of Austria. Later, while in the employ of Lord Stuart, the British ambassador in Vienna, he sought to reform the appearance of his team of cooks, which he found too slovenly for grand events, and took inspiration from the military uniforms he'd seen several years prior at the Congress of Vienna. He's the one who imposed white as the color for cooks' outfits, in order to underline their cleanliness and hygiene. He also created a new hat by inserting a cardboard frame into the long soft hats of his subordinates, creating the toque. He felt that a sharp and clean uniform was a sign of discipline that would inspire confidence. It also had the advantage of being less warm than its predecessors. Carême had a huge influence on all French haute cuisine, as well as that of Europe, at a time when food was an essential element of diplomacy, which is still the case in France. He created, beyond many new dishes, new types of presentation and serving techniques, codified cooking rules, and through his influence his outfits also spread to other kitchens. But the tall toque remained something of a rare attribute at first, only seen in kitchens of kings and the elite. It took another legendary chef for it to become a symbol of the profession. One of history's most famous chefs, Auguste Escoffier, is probably one of the main reasons that, beyond its inherent qualities, French cuisine has the shining reputation throughout the world that it enjoys to this day. Creator of numerous new dishes, he was recognized for his talent and inherited Carême's title of King of Chefs, Chef of Kings. Renowned for his collaboration with hotelier César Ritz and his residency in the famous London Savoy, he revolutionized the organization of large kitchens by creating the brigade system. Inspired by military formations that he encountered during his service as a cook for the French High Command during the Franco-Prussian War, this new system assigns a specific role and hierarchy to each person in the kitchen, so all elements of a dish can be assembled simultaneously and be of the best quality. Military origins imply a uniform, and during his time at the Savoy in London in the late 19th century, he imposed an outfit to his cooks that was strongly inspired by Marie-Antoine Carême's, with white double-breasted tunics and toques. He felt that an impeccable appearance was important to be a great cook. Escoffier was renowned throughout the culinary world, both for his talent, but also because of his extensive writings about the art of cooking. He was a reference in the matter, and thus every great cook wanted to imitate him. Besides his dishes and organization, this included the outfits he wore with his brigades. It is at this time that the tall chef's hat truly spread to all areas of haute cuisine, and trickling down from that, less renowned cooks started adopting it to give themselves some prestige. The fact that this hat, while tall, also helped keep the head cool added to its popularity. As time passed, it evolved to become a symbol of the entire profession. As an aside, the number of pleats in a toque is said to represent the number of ways a chef knows how to cook an egg, but in fact they're probably likelier to be there to give rigidity to the hat. Its height traditionally depends on the wearer's rank in the kitchen. The more senior, the taller the hat. Though that rule is not always followed. The chef de cuisine does usually have the tallest hat, though. The toque blanche is still used today, even though it is challenged by more relaxed kitchen environments. Often we now see paper versions, which are lighter and can be disposed of when dirty. With hygiene standards only getting stricter, some form of hat is almost always required for cooks to prevent hair or sweat from falling in dishes, but other kinds are used too, such as softer toques, similar to the ones worn before Carême made them rigid, or simple cotton skull caps, which are particularly popular for bakers, or even simple hairnets, which are sometimes even worn by long-haired people underneath their toque. In large cafeterias, cooks sometimes wear little paper caps, and the most trendy chefs, trying to project a relaxed attitude, might wear baseball caps or bandanas. The white color is sometimes replaced, often with black, but also by a whole spectrum of colors that sometimes represent the cook's employer. Despite these assaults on tradition, the toque retains its place in the most prestigious kitchens. When chefs appear in public, they are often wearing the traditional hat. The same is true in grand hotels or restaurants when they are cooking dishes in the view of the guests. Many traditionalist chefs insist on wearing the classic outfit, and its place as a symbol of the profession can be seen by it appearing on many awards for cooking, notably the Toque d'Or. It can also be a handy place to hide a rat controlling the cook through his hair. Thus, though it has been replaced in certain environments, the chef's toque is still a mark of great prestige, and a sure sign that one is about to eat very, very well. I hope you found this video interesting and will join me again soon for another hat. Until then, I tip my hat to you.